Hi, I'm Suzanne from SuzanneHarrison.co. I'm an astrologer, an author, and an alchemist. And today we're going to talk about well-being through the astrological chart. In particular, my own model that I've created called Permanent Wellbeing, which is a blend of astrology and positive psychology. So let's get into it. So what is permanent well-being? Well, in short, it's how to flourish and thrive by living in alignment with your birth chart. But first, I'll share a little bit about me. Now, I began studying astrology in the 1990s when psychological astrology was the biggest show in town. In 2013, while studying psychology at university, I first learned about the PERMA model of well-being, and that PERMA is an acronym. In short, PERMA is an acronym for the 5 identified elements of well-being. As I sat in that lecture, my mind turned immediately to the astrological equivalents of these well-being elements, and the permanent well-being astrological model was born. So what is PERMA? PERMA is shorthand for a model of well-being developed by positive psychology researchers. Each PERMA element, when engaged in willingly, will result in increased happiness, improvements in well-being, and greater physical and mental health. And who doesn't want that? So if you're feeling lost, confused, or unsure of what you're doing with your life, you're feeling lonely or disconnected from the important people in your life, you're feeling bored or lacking direction in your job or career, or every day feels like a struggle from the cradle to the grave, then I would encourage you to download my free Permanent Wellbeing Guide, start taking some action with it, and you'll find that this is where you'll be. You'll be feeling happier, more positive, and engaged with your life. You'll be more joyful. You'll have more connection and meaning in all of your relationships. You'll be motivated to set and achieve meaningful goals in all areas of your life. And you'll even be excited to jump out of bed each day and engage with life with meaning and purpose. So what are the 5 elements of well-being? The five elements of well-being in positive psychology are, sorry about that, the P stands for positive emotions, the E stands for engagement, the R is relationships, but they must be positive relationships, more on that in a minute. The M stands for meaning, and the A stands for accomplishment. So these 5 elements taken singly or in combination, when engaged with on a regular basis, will improve your well-being. So let's start with the first one, P. Now, P equals positive emotions. Now, it goes without saying that when you feel good, you feel good. That sounds a little bit silly, but this is about more than just feeling happy. Emotions such as joy, gratitude, serenity, interest, hope, pride, amusement, inspiration, and awe all sit under the positive banner. Now, positive psychology research tells us that it is really quite healthy. It's ideal to have a 3-to-1 ratio of positive to negative emotions. That means that ideally you want to be feeling positive emotions 75% of the time. If after checking in regularly with your moods, you are more 50-50 or worse still 1 to 3, so you're only feeling positive 25% of the time or less, then I would strongly suggest that you have a look at it and get into this guide or any other way you can think of to increase your positive emotions and get on board with it to improve your well-being that way. Now, the E in the PERMA model stands for engagement. This is popularly understood as a state of flow. Now, this element is best described as a total immersion in an activity such that you experience a loss of time. Now, if you can recall a time when you were so totally absorbed in a task that you didn't notice the sun go down or that you are hungry or thirsty, there's a good chance that you're experiencing a flow state. Now, importantly, flow occurs at the intersection of challenge and skill. The task that you are doing must challenge you enough to keep you striving for more, whilst always feeling as though you are skillful enough to see it through. That's really important with flow, because if you try something that's too hard and you don't feel like you're progressing, it can be very easy to give up. Again, that depends on your sun sign, but that's another story. We'll get to that in a minute. But if it's too easy, you'll also lose interest. Now, flow is a complex state, and there are a number of contributing factors, but in my experience, there is one planetary placement above all that must be satisfied for you to enter into that state of flow and be truly engaged in what you're doing. Now, the R in the PERMA model is relationships, but they must be positive relationships. Human beings by nature are social creatures. And within the PERMA framework, we're talking about all relationships. So we're talking about all interactions, including those with bosses, partners, spouse, friends, family members, colleagues, mentors, supervisors, and our community at large. Positive, this is really critical. Positive relationships are those where both or all parties feel supported, loved, and valued. That is critical. Less positive relationships ought to be thoroughly examined and, if possible, ended. I know it sounds brutal, but it is what it is. Toxic people and toxic relationships are a greater threat to your well-being than anything else. Trust me, that's true. Now, the M in PERMA stands for meaning, and meaning is belonging to and serving something that you believe is bigger than yourself. Having a purpose in life helps you focus on what is really important, particularly if you are confronted with significant challenge or adversity. Meaning may be pursued through a profession, a social or political cause, creative endeavor, or a religious spiritual belief. It may be found in a career or through extracurricular volunteer or community activities. And having a sense of meaning in your life is something different for everyone. And again, this is easily discoverable in your chart. Now, the A in the PERMA model stands for accomplishment. An accomplishment in PERMA refers to achievement of goals, mastery, or competence. Now, we gain a sense of accomplishment from working toward and reaching goals, mastering an endeavour, and having self-motivation to finish what we set out to do. Accomplishment includes the concepts of perseverance and having a passion to attain goals. Well-being comes when accomplishment is tied to striving towards something just for the sake of the pursuit and improvement. This is really important. Achieving intrinsic goals, such as growth and connection, lead to larger gains in well-being than external goals such as money or fame. And the research is conclusive on that. So how is all this reflected in your birth chart? So we've just finished off covering the PERMA model of positive psychology. How do we plant this into your astrology chart? Well, each element in the PERMA model has a corresponding planetary significator. So you have a ready-made well-being guide to well-being right there in your birth chart. So let's start with P. P is positive emotions. And anyone who knows anything about astrology will not be surprised by this, but the moon is mission control for your emotions. So your moon sign shows your emotional center. It shows your secret to happiness. It will give you, if you tap into it, it will give you an instant mood lift. The moon also shows our conditioning. So if you tap into the moon as a well-being element, you can start reprogramming yourself today. The moon obviously contains all the feels, but here's an important thing. Your mood is your choice. And this again is strongly related to research in psychology. Emotion, even if we feel something really extreme like rage or even joy or any ecstasy, it is if you hold that emotion and feel it with all the intensity you possibly can, then you can only hold it for about 90 seconds. It's not very long, is it? 90 seconds. So once that emotion itself passes, because that's what emotions do, they will leave you with an aftertaste almost. They will leave you with a mood, and it's the mood that becomes your choice. So if you've been really, really angry with someone, for example, and you can choose to stonewall them, or you can choose to maintain the rage, or you can choose to walk away, go do something else, and shift your mood. You actually can do that. So like I said, your mood, your choice. My tip, once you've downloaded my free guide, is to go to your moon sign, read the information there for your specific moon placement, and brainstorm 3 things that you can do immediately that will help lift your mood and put you into a positive emotional state. And you watch the difference that that makes in your life. Now, engagement or flow is, for me, ruled by the sun. Now, as I said, this is a complex element, engagement. So there are a lot of things, a lot of moving parts in engagement. But from experience, both myself and working with others, I have found that unless your sun sign is satisfied, it's very difficult for you to enter into flow. And I like to use the phrase, and I've stolen this phrase from the great astrologer Mark Jones: your sun sign is the fuel you are burning in this life. Give yourself a moment to think about that. Now, your sun sign is the energy that propels you forward. It's your life essence. It's your guiding light. It's how you take up space. It's your personal inner source of wisdom and energy and creativity. And it's who you are at your core. And I have found, above all other things, that if you tap into how you can be fully engaged with the essence of who you are at your core, what the what the essence of your sun sign is, then again, you can experience immediate changes in your sense of well-being. And it makes it so much easier to flourish and thrive in life if you do that. Now, again, anyone who knows anything about astrology, the significator for relationships is no surprise. Venus, obviously, is the planet for relationships. And she reveals your relationship blueprint. Now, this is really interesting. So, Venus rules how you relate to others, but it's also how you like others to relate to you. Venus is the attraction principle and what you are looking for in a partner. So, that is more the one-on-one thing. And Venus also rules who and what you love and how you create harmony. And let me just give you a quick example of how your Venus placement differs from your moon placement. Because often what can happen is, because the moon rules your emotions, you can easily fall in love with somebody who stimulates your moon, but if they're not going to satisfy your Venus, then the chances are a long-term relationship is probably not the best idea. And I'll use myself as an example here. I have my moon in Gemini, but I have my Venus in Capricorn. And those two signs are really, really different. So my moon loves conversations with interesting people and learning lots of new things and gathering all the data and doing all of that stuff. But my Venus in Capricorn is in it for the long haul. You know, I want all of my relationships, my good relationships and my friendships and all of my partnerships to have longevity and loyalty. I have learned to differentiate my moon and my Venus, and my moon is fantastic for talking to the people in the coffee shop and, you know, having chats to the neighbors and that kind of thing. But for anyone to move from the Gemini part of my chart, moon in Gemini, into the Venus in Capricorn part of my chart, there's a bit of a gatekeeper there. So that is, it's important for you to differentiate between those two things and to always remember, when it comes to relationships, you must look to your Venus. And I can't stress enough how important it is to examine every relationship, every important relationship in your life, examine it through your Venus placement. And if you have toxic people in your life, cut them out. It's the best thing you can possibly do. Okay, let's move to meaning. And there is one very clear significator of meaning in the chart, and that is Jupiter. Jupiter is your gift from the gods. Jupiter in Sagittarius, the voyager, the scholar, the philosopher. Jupiter shows where you're connected to something greater than yourself. It's where you're adventurous. It's where you can be philosophical. It's where you're expansive, and it's where you learn through experience. Once you tap into your Jupiter placement and you realize what it is that gives your life meaning, it becomes so much easier to make choices about things, people, events, relationships, all kinds of things that whether or not you choose to get involved with them. It's a fantastic filter to pass everything through. Jupiter's just the best. Okay, so the final element in the PERMA model is accomplishment. And I think it's not an overstatement to say that nothing of any value was ever achieved without Saturn's help. Now, Saturn gets a bad rap, especially amongst traditional astrologers, Hellenistic astrologers, where Saturn's known as the greater malefic. I'm not on board with that at all. That's going to be the subject of a totally different video and probably blog post and maybe even a book. But anyway, in terms of this model, you have to get to know your Saturn and you have to learn how Saturn can help you. Because if you make friends with him, he will get you further than any other planet in your chart because he is your essential mountain climbing guide. Yes, he teaches you tough lessons. Yes, he teaches you discipline. Yes, it's where you have to be responsible. Yes, it's where you have to be focused and goal oriented, but he will help you do all of those things. And he will keep you on task, even if you hate him for it. So, in summary, the 5 astrological well-being placements are: the moon represents your emotions. Obviously, it's mission control for your emotions. The sun is the fuel that you are burning in this life, and it's an essential element if you want to go get into flow for anything. Venus obviously is your relationship blueprint. Jupiter is your gift from the gods and the perfect filter for discerning whether or not things have meaning for you in your life. And Saturn is your essential mountain climbing guide. Now, as I said before, I have a free permanent wellbeing download guide on my website. I'll put the link below in the description. So if you just jump onto my website, it's right on the front page. It's really comprehensive. I go through each of the 5 planetary placements that are the significators for well-being. I go through every sign of every planet, so you'll be able to pick out your 5 different placements. I've got journal prompts to help you work with them and brainstorm ways for you to incorporate them in your life. And I can pretty much guarantee you that if you do that, then things will start turning around for you pretty quickly. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.